Hello. I hope you have your good listening ears today because this story is a little bit long, but I know that you're a great listener and it's a really cute story, so I think you can make it through. It's called Matthew the Cowboy by Ruth Hooker and illustrated by Kat Bowman Smith. Matthew got a cowboy suit for his birthday. A cowboy suit? Just what I've always wanted, he said. He put on the boots and the chaps and the vest and the 10-gallon hat. So long, Matthew said to his mother and father. I'm going out west to be a cowboy. On his way out west, he came to a general store. Howdy, said the storeman. I see you're a cowboy, but where's your horse? I don't have a horse, said Matthew. Well, that's easy enough to fix. The plains are full of wild horses. What you need now is a saddle, a bridle, and some spurs that go jingle, jangle, jingle. Here, partner, care to borrow these? Don't mind if I do, said Matthew. He strapped on the spurs, slung the saddle and bridle over his shoulder, and went jingle, jangle, jingle on his way. When he reached the plains, sure enough, there were lots of horses. A beautiful white horse came up to him. Matthew gentled the horse by stroking him and talking to him. Would you be my horse? Matthew asked. We can ride the range together, and I will call you Silver. Silver whinnied, so Matthew bridled, saddled, and mounted him, and they rode out across the range. Before long, Matthew met another cowboy. Howdy, partner, the other cowboy said. I'm Rocky, boss of the Rocky 9 Ranch. I can see you are a good guy, said Rocky. I'd take it kindly if you'd come help me and my cowhands, Slim, Tex, and Pete. We've got trouble back at the ranch. Don't mind if I do, said Matthew. Rocky handed Matthew a lasso. Take this, he said. You might need it. Thank you kindly, said Matthew, twirling his lasso. They headed for the Rocky 9 Ranch. On the way, they passed the Wagon Wheel Ranch. The ranch was full of cattle, all branded with the Wagon Wheel brand. Some strange branding irons lay near the fence. That's funny, said Rocky. Where did all those cows come from? Last I knew, nobody lived here at all. At last, they reached the Rocky 9 Ranch with the Rocky 9 brand over the gate. Sad-looking cowhands were sitting on the fence, but there wasn't a cow in sight. Howdy, said Matthew. I'm Matthew. Howdy, said Slim, Tex, and Pete. Where are your cows? Matthew asked. We can't find them, Slim said. Last night, they just plumb disappeared. Rocky said, There's dirty work afoot. Yep, said Matthew, and I reckon the answer's at the Wagon Wheel Ranch. Let's ride. When they got to the wagon wheel, the cows were gone. All they found were the branding irons. Rocky said, That's a mighty strange brand. It's not strange, Matthew said. Put that brand on top of the Rocky 9 brand and you'll get a wagon wheel. I'll show you how it's done. Matthew drew a Rocky 9 brand. Then he drew the strange brand on top of it. Together, they made a perfect wagon wheel brand. You've got it figured out, said Rocky. Let's get the sheriff. So they took the branding irons and galloped off to the sheriff's office. Howdy, Sheriff, said Matthew. We've got to catch some rustlers who have been stealing cattle from the Rocky 9. He showed the sheriff the branding irons. I reckon it's Bad Bart and his boys, the sheriff said. I heard they were back. The sheriff made Matthew a deputy and gave him a star. They'll be heading for the border, the sheriff said, but we can cut them off at the pass. So they all mounted up and galloped to the pass. They hid behind some boulders and waited. Sure enough, they saw the rustlers heading toward the pass with the cattle. Bad Bart was in the lead. Yee-haw! Shouted Matthew, twirling his lasso. He galloped right up to those rustlers. Matthew captured Bad Bart. Rocky and the sheriff lassoed the rest of the rustlers. You're all under arrest, said the sheriff. Slim, Tex, and Pete rounded up the cattle. The sheriff put the rustlers in jail and gave the cattle back to Rocky. Then the sheriff asked Matthew, how would you like to be my deputy forever? Thank you kindly, Sheriff, but the sun is setting and I've got to be moving on, said Matthew. He handed his star back to the sheriff. Come and stay in my bunkhouse and be my head cowboy, Rocky said. Thank you kindly, Rocky, but I've got to be moving on, Matthew said. He handed his lasso back to Rocky. As Matthew slowly rode away, he heard the sheriff say, there goes the best cowboy in the West. When Matthew reached the horses on the plains, he unsaddled and unbridled Silver and said a sad goodbye and let him go join the other wild horses. At the general store, Matthew gave the storeman the saddle, the bridle, and the spurs that went jingle, jangle, jingle. Then he headed home. Howdy, said his mother and father. Howdy, said Matthew. How about some grub? His mother asked. Don't mind if I do, said Matthew. I hope you enjoyed Matthew and the Cowboy. Maybe this week you can play cowboy. See you next time.